Here we will be discussing about what are stateful widgets. In the earlier sessions, we are very used to stateless widget. We also created our own stateless widget by the name of home screen. But definitely in a real world application, there might be a lot of scenarios where we will have to use a stateful widget. Before going into stateful widget, you might be thinking, what is a state? So a state is just a value or a piece of data in our application. Anything that can change, like a counter count, text, color, etc., can be a part of a state. State means data. In your application, just assume a state of username, that is what are his or her skills. Flutter, Firebase, these are all state. What is the color of the app? Blue, that is also a state. A stateful widget is simply a widget whose internal data will change on some action. That is, button is clicked and then text color should be changed, or there should be some kind of animation. In that case, that widget is refreshed and rebuilt with the new data. This is not possible in stateless widget. So theoretically you have understood, but definitely while we are working on in our code, you might have a lot of doubts, and let's clear it one by one. So I will just again remove all the data, but before removing all the data, I would like to have a new screen. It is home is okay, it's a stateless widget, but I would like to have suppose contact dot. We have the screen. Now let's create our first stateful widget screen. Then now first we have to import material as usual. Then create a class and name I will name is contact, and then extend it to stateful widget. Okay, then it will have some missing overrides, and this is like this is the create state. Stateful widget will have two classes. One is the stateful, which extends the stateful, and the second one is the state class that extends it. So here you can simply return, suppose I will name it contact state. This will again be a widget. I will create this contact state. It will extend a state which will have this name. Now here again there will be missing override, it is the build, and now you are familiar with this build thing. I will simply return scaffold here. So this is the bare minimum or the skeleton of a stateful widget. So you might be thinking, oh no, I don't want to write this again and again. In that case, you might need some extensions. Like here, I have these awesome Flutter snippets. Then you will definitely have Dart and Flutter in it. With these awesome Flutter snippets, we get a lot of shortcuts. One of the shortcuts is to create a stateful widget directly. So I will just remove all this. The shortcut key is STF, that is Flutter Stateful Widget, and then I will just click enter and I will name it contact. So see, this is done. We don't have to do anything with this shortcut. And what is that state? Here I will have this string name is equal to guest. Suppose this guest name is a state which we will change later on and show you how how the screen rebels and how the UI changes upon any action we do. In the next video, we will be continuing from here. So till then, enjoy and practice your best. Now we have already discussed what is and how to write a stateful widget. Now it's time we do it practically and understand when and where we have to use the set state method and what is the benefit of using it. Let's do it. We have this page of contact.dart. Here in the scaffold, I will have an app bar and it will have a title of text, suppose stateful widget. Okay. And in the body, let's have a column. In the children, let's first have a text field and below that let's have a text of suppose hello, then the name variable. And in the main dot dart, instead of going to home screen, let's go to contact screen, restart our application, and see, you will just see a normal text bar, that is text field with this hello text widget. Now what I want is whenever something is changed here, that is on changed value, I want this name variable to be set to the whatever we write in it. Okay, but the thing is, if we do it like this only, that is without using set state, it won't work. Let's see, hello, I will write flutter flu. See, nothing is working here. It's again hello guest. But if we just use the set state method here, that is change the state here, and how we write the set state, it's like set, then capital set state, then parenthesis, and within that again a function like this. This is how it's written. So within the set state, now if I change name is equal to value and then restart, now you just focus on the text hello. See, first time whatever we are writing, the UI is being rebuilt just because of the one reason, because it's a stateful widget. Now here the state, that is the name, we can change it according to some actions. Here that action is a text field. To understand what's going on and how the screen is rebuilding, we can just have a print statement. First, in the build, that is print screen building, and once here print value if you want, or you can just have print that state is called. Now when I restart, you just see the debug console screen building, that is this build function is called, that is why we are able to see this output. Now I will write C. If I write F, then again set state is called and screen is rebuilding, LUTTER. So all the time this UI was, that is this build function was calling again and again. and this value name was being changed. That is why it is being reflected here. Through the debug console, you can understand what's going under the hood and how Flutter is using the setState method to alert the UI to rebuild itself. So this is the difference between a stateless and stateful widget. In a stateless widget, that state, that is whatever it's written, cannot be changed by whether we want it via some buttons, clicks, or whatever. But in a stateful widget, these values can be changed using the set state method. In the next video, we will do another example of set state. Till then, just try to research and practice on your own as well. So until now, we know how to use a set state method and how it can be used to rebuild the screen with the new state. But it's better if we practice some with some more examples. Let's start and create a new screen. New file will be, suppose, should be, I will just name it stateful dot dot. As usual, import material package, then have a stateful widget of my stateful screen. I have just named it like this. Then have a scaffold and an app bar as usual. In the title, have a text of stateful widget. In the body, you in the body let's have a center widget, and child, let's have a column widget. Now since it's a stateful widget, definitely there has to be some state. So I will create one list of string. I will name it names is equal to this, and like Elon, Bill, Mark. Okay, and I will have another state of int I is equal to 0. You might be thinking, what are these? So it's just 0 because the index of a list starts with 0. Now here in that, I will first, there will be some one text field and from white. My name is, then names and I. So it will, at the very beginning, it will show Elon, and for that we have to change in the my main dot dot, it should be my stateful screen, and then restart. Let's see. My name is Elon. Okay, and also the column, I will just say main axis alignment dot center, that is from top to bottom, it should be in center. Okay, now what I want is, I want two raise buttons in the same column, and first button will be next, and the second elevated button will be go back. Okay, let's see. Okay, what I want is, when I click on this next button, my name is Elon should be my name is Bill. That is, it should circle, or it should go through that list of names. For that, in the on press, I have to change the data of I. That is, I is 0, it should be 1 if I click on the next button. So for that, I will just write set state and then I plus plus. Let's see. I will click on this next. See, my name is Bill, and if I click, my name is Mark. Similarly, if I want to go back, I will just write set state I minus minus. Here If I click on next, it will go Bill. If I click on go back, it will again Elon. But the thing is, if the user click on next multiple time, then it will show some error. See, because I is only the length is only 0 1, there is 3. But if I goes more than 2, it will start showing error. To for that, we have to do some kind of conditions here in the on press, such as set state if I will just write here, if I is less than names dot length, then only execute this set state thing. Okay, now let's restart and check what will happen. 0 1 2. When it goes to 3, it should not execute. 0 1 bill marks, and again it worked. I have to write -1 here then, definitely. Let's do it again. Elon bill. See, now it's not showing any error. And similarly, go back. When we are going back, we have to check if I is not equal to 0, then minus. If it's already 0, then we cannot go further. Now let's try it. If I go 1 2 3, okay. Now if I go Bill Elon, and now if I try to go back also, then also it won't work, because we have our condition which will make sure the screen doesn't crashes. So this is a very basic example of set state. One more example you can have is, suppose there is a color, this color of colors dot red. Okay, this is one state. Now I will have a floating action button. Floating action button. In the child, it will have an icon of icons dot, let's see, I don't know what is the color lens. Let's check it out. See, okay, I have this icon here. What I want is, when I click on this icon, its color should change. Now I have this background color, and this background color will be this state, that is red. Okay, so in the very beginning the state is red, but I want is, when I click on this button, the state should be changed. So when I click on this button, set state color is equal to colors dot amber. I'm just showing you different examples so that you are more comfortable with the set state and understand what it does. Now I'm clicking on it. See, the color changed to amber. So this is the use of set state, and this is how a stateful widget works. It simply changes that data and rebuilds the screen with that new data. Simple as that. So in the next video, we will discuss few of the remaining concept of this module, and after that we are good to go into the next Flutter concepts. So now we have already worked on stateful widget and how to change the state using set state method, there is another method which is very important in a stateful widget, which is called the init state. So what is init state? It is a function which is already there inside every stateful widget. You just have to write inc. Here I can get this helper. So if I click on enter, there is this function init state, and what it does it, when this screen or when this stateful widget is being built for the very first time, this is called. So that means before this build function, before the UI, this init state will be called. So if you want to see what I'm saying, let's print here init state, and in the build function let's print build function. Now let's restart the application. In the debug console you will see, first the init state was called, and secondly the build function was called. So this is very powerful and very useful when we are building a real world application. So you might be thinking, okay, but what is the use of this init state? So what we usually do is we assign some value. We assign some value to our variables, instance variables, you can say, to the data. Suppose this is, I will just, for example, this is string name. So this is one variable. Now this data is coming, suppose, from the previous screen, user name, and here I will just write this dot username is equal to Jeff Bezos. Now in the init state I would like to assign that value, that is data which is coming from the previous screen to this screen. We'll just write this dot name is equal to widget dot username, and then in the text bar I would like to show that username. Let's see, does it work or not? See, so what we did was the data was coming from previous screen to this screen, just for example, and here you are assigning that value to a variable which was empty, which was null earlier, but before building this screen this value was assigned to that variable using the init state, since because it is the first function which is being called when this widget was built there, or you can say when this widget was building. Now suppose, I hope you remember the previous concept of set state. If I click on this, then the build function will be called again, but the init state function is only called once. So see, the build function is being called again because the page is being refreshed, but this init state thing won't, we cannot call it again. It is already it is only called once, or you have to remove this screen or go to different screen, totally different to page, and then come back to this page again. This is the only way. Here we just assign that value from the parent widget to this widget. Other things you can say, there are a lot of things like streams, text editing controller. So those value or those things which we want to initialize, will be used, or we can initialize it in the init state. So right now you might be thinking what I am saying, but later on when we are using Firebase database, or we have to initialize something, that is suppose some HTTP request, these things we can do it in the init state. That means just start or initialize the thing as soon as this page is being built. So I hope you have understood the concept of stateful widgets and how pages are being built. This init state is very much important, but right now if you have understood only the concept also, then it's enough. We can move on to some other topics. In the last video, we understand how the init state function work. Likewise, we have other functions or other things as well in a stateful widget, which is called a stateful widget lifecycle. So there are few of the functions which we can use in a stateful widget. The first one is the init state, which we have already discussed. This is the first method called when the widget is created. It is called once and only once. It is usually used to initialize properties that rely on this widget's parent in the tree, subscribe to streams, change notifiers, or any other object that could change the data on the widget. So this we have discussed. The next is the change dependencies. This method is called immediately after init state, and when dependency of the state object changes via inherited widget. So you can just see it's did change dependencies. I will simply write print did change dependencies. I will restart the app, and here you will see first init state will be there, then did change dependencies, then the build function. This method is rarely needed or used. The docs of the Flutter also suggest that it could be useful if you need to do some remote calls, but when an inherited widget updates. This concept is not that important. I have been building apps from the lot of years, and this thing is not important. Third is the build function. This method is called every time the widget is rebuilt. It is a required and must return a widget. So this is the build function. We already know that it will be called in the third place. First init state, second the change dependencies, and third build function. Fourth is did update widget. This is also a function or given by the stateful widget. It is called if the parent widget changes and has to rebuild this screen, that is this widget. So what I mean is, suppose here this data is coming from the parent widget, that is from the previous screen, and here did update this thing is called if this dot suppose name not equal to old widget dot username, or sorry, you can just say this dot widget dot username. So print did update change. So now we cannot show it, but you have to understand the concept. Suppose a typical case is when a parent passes some variable to the children via the constructor, which is this case which we have already done. The parent is passing some data via the constructor, and if the parent widget's data changes, then this build function will also recall and show the changes done. So Flutter calls the build function after this, so no need to write set state on your own. This function is also not used that much, but when we are learning about stateful widgets, at least you should know these terms also exist. Fifth is set state. We already know that this is a set state thing, and after that the build function is called again and the UI is built. This is not a new thing. Sixth is deactivate. This function is called when the object is removed from the tree. This is again rarely used. This method exists basically because state objects can be removed from one point in a tree to another, and it can be removed temporarily. I will just show you that this also exists. Deactivate like this. We'll just print deactivate, and the final and the last one is dispose. This is very important. This method is called when this object, that is when this stateful widget is removed from the tree permanently. Here we should release any resources retained by the object, like stopping animation or whatever. One example is when this method is called while using the push replacement of the navigator. In the next session only we will be talking about navigation. So that is from one page to another page. If we go, then the previous page should be disposed properly. There should be no memory leak. So in a real world application, it is very much important to use this dispose method. Here we will stop some animation or database calls or whatever which is not required later on. So these are the life cycle of a stateful widget. First is init state, second ditching dependencies, third is build function, then fourth is if we do any, if the parent widget does any changes to the variables here, so then did update widget is called. We compare the two values, and then the last one are the deactivate, which is also not that much use, but this dispose thing is used a lot. So you have to make sure you know all these terms, and when we are using it later on, you are not confused on what is this or is this anything new, because at least the concept we know. Later on practically we will learn how to use it.